Hello. In this video I want to talk about my experience and observations of intensity within evangelical Christianity. I was a Jewish believer in Jesus for 42 years, and I came to this belief at the age of 18, and then after re-evaluating everything again, I threw Jesus away and realised it was all nonsense. That after 42 years, so I no longer believe in Jesus. During the whole time that I was a Christian or Jewish believer in Jesus, whatever you want to call it, I hated Christianity. I didn't like it as a religion, and I suppose when I'm talking about I don't like it as a religion, what I was talking about is the outworking of it and the attitudes and the culture and the ideas, and I found so much of it abhorrent to me, and I felt it was a very damaging religion, very, very damaging. Now, yesterday I did a video about adultery. I was thinking through the commandment, which is one of the 10 commandments, of do not commit adultery, and about how very, very hard it is if you find yourself in a position where you fall madly, truly and deeply in love with somebody who belongs to somebody else. Or you're married and you fall in love with a single person or a divorced person. So that the whole situation, and really recognizing, I think for the first time in my life, really what a very hard commandment that is if you're in that situation where you really do meet somebody and this feels like the real thing. This is not like a one-night stand, this is a depth of feeling, and you want to take it on to the next level and the next level and the next level. And of course you're already married, or the man or the woman is already married and you're single. And this is where it's got me thinking about saying what Jesus said. You probably have all heard it, and it says, whoever looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery. Right? Whoever looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery. Now, the way I used to view this as a Jewish believer in Jesus was, I thought this was very positive, because I thought this is putting flesh on the bones of do not commit adultery. It's like getting you to think deeper and to realise, to go deeper, and that looking at desires and human desires and keeping them in check, maybe. But I'm now finding myself re-evaluating that, and I'm not so sure I like this approach, and I don't know if it's even helpful, because this is the approach of Christianity to everything. It's not just adultery, it's anything. It's like if you look at a plate of food, a table of food, and you want to eat it all, then you're guilty of being greedy. But from a Jewish perspective, and I understand it from the Jewish scriptures, it's all about what you actually do, not what you actually feel, but it's all about actions in Judaism. The Hebrew scriptures, it's all about what you do with those feelings. So you look at a wonderful plate, you're on a cruise. I've been on a cruise, and you see the most magnificent selection of food. Oh, I want to eat it. I want to eat it all. It's just wonderful selection of things. But of course, you're not supposed to eat it all. You're not supposed to eat it all. It's not put there for for you to eat it all. It's not there for you to pick out, contrary to what a lot of people think. The reason why they're giving you there's so much food on a cruise is they're giving you choice. In other words, they're giving you a very, very large selection to choose from. Ordinarily, you don't have a large selection of food to choose from. You know, like if you go to a Christmas do or some dinner, you know, whatever, buffet, and you get so much choice. But when you go on a cruise, wow, the choice is just amazing. And the cruise people would say, well, we want to provide a choice for people. We're not expecting people to overeat and gorge themselves and make themselves sick. It's about choice. It's about, we have got everything you could possibly need or want, in terms of, we've got the fish, we've got the meats, we've got the vegetarian, we've got the vegan, we've got everything to cater for every physical need in terms of food. You know, everybody's got their own things. They can't eat this, and they can't eat this and this. So if you go on a good cruise, they cater for everybody, because they've got, well, I don't, 400 guests, and everybody's got different tastes, and you know, so they have to have a wide selection of food. But what tends to happen on cruises, I've been on two, is people tend to see it, all this food, and they think they're supposed to eat it all. They think it's their personal responsibility to eat as much of that food as possible. They don't realise they're supposed to actually choose a certain amount of food, and the amount of food they choose should be what they normally eat. In other words, you have a wide choice, but the amount you choose should be what you would normally eat. It doesn't mean you're supposed to eat more. It just means you have a wider choice, right? So perhaps you can try things that perhaps you've never tried before. You've never tried before, and that's one big thing about a cruise. You try desserts and things you've never tried before. You've heard about, it's possibly too expensive to buy, you know, you'd have to go to an expensive restaurant, and then you see it on a cruise and you think, oh, I'll try that. But you're not supposed to pick out. That is what people don't understand about cruises. Not everybody, but there are some sensible people, and they just eat what they normally eat. They don't overeat, they just eat what they normally eat, but they're eating slightly differently. They're picking different foods because it's an opportunity to try new things, and that's what it's all about. You're not supposed to eat it all, right? Now, for some people, they will look at that table of food and say, oh, I want to eat it all. You want to eat it all? That's your initial thing. Oh, I can't decide, I just have it all. You know, it's like, but of course, common sense should kick in, and hopefully you're with somebody who will remind you, don't eat too much. You know, you're not supposed to eat it all. You're supposed to choose. And then what you do is choose a normal amount of food that you normally eat. There's no reason for you to eat more just because you're on a cruise. I know most people don't get this on a cruise. You know, it's because you just tempt. This is it. You end up eating. You can end up eating more. I've done it myself. You're eating more because you want to. Oh, I'll try this, and then I'll try that, and I'll try that, and so you are actually eating more. When really, what you should have done, it was right at the beginning, is just choose what it is you're going to eat, and you want to keep it the same portion as you normally have with a dessert. So there's no need to eat more. You're just eating a different foods. And, you know, if you eat carefully, there's no reason that you should even put on weight. Perhaps nominal, maybe a pound or two, maybe. But you shouldn't put on significant weight. There's no reason for that. Now, this is all about intensity and judging yourself and being severe with yourself, because what I'm leading up to is about how we feel when you look at a plate, you look at that buffet of food, and I'd love to eat all of it, you know. But of course you don't. You don't. You're sensible. No, no, of course not. No, no, I'm watching my diet. I've got high blood pressure. I've got this, I've got that. No, of course I eat at all. So you select appropriately. So you've actually overcome your initial desire, your initial impression, desire, gut reaction was, oh, I want to eat it all. But then your brain kicks in and thinks, no, that's silly. I'm not going to eat it all. I'm going to just be sensible and just eat small amounts, and not be greedy and not stuff myself silly and things like that. And I suppose I'm heading in the direction of intensity and self-condemnation about, there's something about Christianity that somehow gets you feeling bad about your very desires. So the fact that you've looked at a buffet table of food and sort of initially thought, oh, I'd love to eat all of that, that it somehow condemns you. Now we want to go back to the adultery, because the actual commandment is do not commit adultery. So it's about an action. Commit is an action. It's not a thought. It's not a thought. The Ten Commandment, do not commit adultery, is not a commandment of a thought. It's a commandment of what you do. It's a physical act. So God is saying in this commandment, do not commit that physical act of adultery. Right? You might want to do it, you might yearn to do it, you might long to do it, but you don't do it. It's the same as murder. You might feel you want to murder somebody, you might feel you're justified, you might have an overwhelming urge to murder somebody, but the commandment is do not murder. And what matters, what is explicit in the commandment, is do not do it. In other words, God is concerned about what you actually do. Okay, you want to do it, but what do you actually do? And what you actually do is you don't murder. You feel like murdering the so-and-so, but you don't. You're tempted to steal because nobody's looking and you could get away with it, but you say, no, I'm not going to do it. So within Judaism, and the way, giving this a sort of basic examples of the Ten Commandments, it's about the action. It's all about the action. The focus is on the action. It's not on the desires, because that's taken as read that you have the desires. The desires already exist. That's why God has asked to say don't do it. The reason why God says don't commit adultery is because he knows many people want to commit adultery. They desire to commit adultery. They see a beautiful man, a woman, whatever, they have a connection and they want to. They just want to. They want to. And God's response in the Ten Commandments is do not. Don't do it. You want to do it, but I'm saying don't do it. So God is actually aware of these desires in human beings to murder, to steal, and to want to have sexual relations with somebody who is not their partner. Right? He knows that these feelings exist and these desires exist, and what he's doing in the Ten Commandments is saying, don't do it. It's as simple as that. He said, yeah, I know you want to do it, but the answer is you don't do it. I know you want to steal this and nobody's looking and everything. You could get away with it and the company wouldn't know, and sort of, they've got insurance and all. We know all the arguments for stealing, right? Justifying. But God would still say, no, don't do it. Don't do it, you see. Now, I'm not getting all technical about stealing, I know there are, but you get into things like stealing, like poor countries where, in terms of stealing, where you have aid sent to foreign countries and the army refused to distribute the aid, right? And you've got mothers and babies dying and children dying because they refuse to distribute the aid because they're holding on to the aid, and they might be selling it or using it just for the soldiers, and they couldn't care less about the population. And then somebody breaks in and steals the food for the starving population. That's a totally different thing. You have to remember that God has common sense. You must never forget that God has common sense. And it's you know, you can get into the minutiae of the technicalities of the definition of stealing and things, and many would argue in that scenario it's not actually stealing, or it's justified and everything. But I want to keep our thoughts on basic, ordinary things like you're in Walmart, you're in Asda, and you're tempted to steal a joint, nobody's looking. You can't afford it, you know, normally, so you think, I'll steal it, nobody's looking. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about the ordinary and everyday, the basic, obvious things that we all get, you know, stealing somebody's handbag, you know, stealing somebody's purse, stealing something from somebody's garden, you know, the sun lounger, seriously, or stealing somebody's bicycle, something like that. So we're talking common sense here. So we have the desire to do it, and God knows we have the desire, right? So he doesn't seem to be condemning us for having the desire. What he's just saying is just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But what we have with Jesus here is he's taking it a step further. And I'm wondering how helpful this is, because he's saying whoever looks lustfully at a woman has already committed adultery. Well, how is a person supposed to overcome that? The people are struggling to obey the commandment of do not commit adultery, the physical act, and that's proving hard enough, right? That is proving hard enough. And Jesus is actually making it harder for people and making people feel worse about themselves, because he's saying, well, you didn't actually go to bed with her, did you? No, but you wanted to, didn't you? And so already we've got the condemnation of Christianity, the judging of Christianity, the severity of Christianity. You desire something, you resist it, you don't do it, and then Jesus comes along and condemns you for having the thought. Because this is what he's actually doing. He's condemning you and judging you and making you feel shit about yourself because you desire that married woman. But you haven't done, you're not going to do anything about it. You've already disciplined yourself. You know about it says do not commit adultery. And you have decided, no, I'm not going to do it. I'd like to do it, but I'm not going to do it. And instead of Jesus patting people on the back and saying, well, good for you, you wanted to do it, but you didn't do it. And good on you, you know, you resisted. Good on you, pat yourself on the back. You should be proud of yourself. You wanted to do it, but you obeyed God and you resisted and you resisted, and good man on you, good woman on you, good on you. You've achieved something here. You've resisted it. You wanted to do it, but you resisted it. Why isn't he getting a pat on the back? Why isn't she getting a pat? No, Jesus doesn't give a pat on the back. What he says, well, you've looked at her already and wanted sex with her, so you're already guilty. I mean, what hope is there for anybody? Seriously, what hope is there for anybody? Right, you looked at that plate of food, you thought you'd love to eat all of it, but you didn't, you just ate what you normally do, and Jesus comes along and condemns you and says you're greedy. Oh, you wanted all that food, therefore you're guilty of greed. I mean, what is this guy saying, and what impact is this having on the Christian culture? Well, I can tell you from 42 years experience, it makes people feel shit about themselves. It makes people over-analytical, cross-examining themselves all the time, feeling bad over every thought and desire. It's hard enough that if you're a married man and you see a gorgeous woman and you think, oh, you know, she's giving you the eye, and you're thinking she wants it, and oh, you know, the wife's gone, she's gone home early, I could get away with this, I could so get away with this. And he wants to do it, But he doesn't do it. He says, no, 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 I'm not going to do it. No. It's what I know. No, it's not wrong. I'm not going to do it. He might believe in God. He might, he's got to try. He might be a God-fearing person. He just might say no, or he might say no for another reason. He might say, I feel it's wrong because, I love my wife, and he's just not, he's not at peace with it. He just, no, I can't do it, no. The whole thing, you see. So he's wrestled with himself, and then he's made his decision, and his decision is no. And wouldn't his wife be pleased if she knew? If she knew that he wrestled with himself and he decided no. But no, this isn't the case with Jesus. Jesus would just come along and say, well, you wanted to, didn't you? What hope is there for anybody? There's no hope for anybody with this. All it does is make people feel terrible. It makes people feel evil, sinful, bad, awful, a disappointing human being to God, somebody that God looks at and is disgusted with and thinks you're awful and thinks you're shit and thinks there's no good in you and you're foul and you're disgusting and there's no good in you. This is Christianity. This is Christianity. And it stems from a simple teaching like that. Because what Jesus has chosen to do with a commandment of God, one of the 10 commandments, he's stretched it. And at first sight it seems innocuous. Because we all know if a man is going to commit adultery or a woman, it begins in the mind anyway. They're looking and they're wanting it. But what the commandment is about, the 10 commandments, is about the action. It's not about the thought. It's about what you do with the thoughts. And this is crucial, and this is fundamental to Judaism. It's about what you do. It's not what you're thinking you'd like to do. You'd like to steal. You feel like losing your temper but you don't. You don't. You exercise self-control. You don't feel like doing something, but you push yourself. Say, no, I need to do this. It's got to be done. So you push yourself. And what Christianity is doing, and it excels at doing, it makes people feel terrible about themselves over their feelings. In other words, they don't feel like doing something. Christianity condemns you. You go out and do it you go and do what you didn't feel like doing, but they're still condemning you because you didn't actually feel like doing it. But what matters comes across in Judaism and in Torah is that God is interested in about what you're doing, not the wrestling beforehand. Oh, I don't feel like doing it. Oh, I should have to do it. All he's bothered about is do it. Parents at home, with the children. Will you put out the rubbish? Oh, I've got to put out the rubbish. Oh, I don't feel like putting out the rubbish. I put it out yesterday. Why have I got to put it out today as well? Put out the rubbish. And eventually, they get up, they put out the rubbish. Right, you get all that whining. But that doesn't matter. Obviously, it's irritating for the parents. Oh, she's whining again about putting out the rubbish. But they take no notice of that. It's no big deal. That's teenagers for you, children for you. What matters is you putting out the rubbish. As long as you put out the rubbish, everything's fine. Everything's fine. He put out the rubbish. Mum said put out the rubbish. He moaned and groaned, but he did put out the rubbish. And that's all she wants from him, is to put out she's looking for him to do it, to put out the rubbish. She's not bothered about all the whining. She's, oh, be quiet, just put it out. Put out the rubbish. I don't feel like doing it. Well, we all don't feel like doing things, but we have to do it. You get all of that. But this is what Christianity does. It makes you feel terrible about yourself. And I feel it's just had such a detrimental effect on my life. And it's probably not me. It's hundreds and millions of other people. These teachings, it is too... I think it's abysmal. I think, and just starting with that approach of the starting approach with Christianity and with Jesus is is not your action. It's not about what you do or don't do. With Jesus, it's about what's going on in your mind. Right? And I used to think that was very good. I was on board with that because I thought, well, that's where it all begins, isn't it, in the mind? But the problem with that is it leaves people feeling absolutely terrible about themselves the whole time. This is the impact of this teaching and this outlook, is it leaves human beings who believe in Jesus, Christians, feeling terrible about everything that goes on in their mind. Every thought is like a demon. Every thought is like the enemy. And every thought is taken so intensely, instead of recognizing that it's not the thought, it's about what you do. You just decide with your mind, no, I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to do this. Right? And what matters to God is the action. It's what you actually do, not the wrestling beforehand. What he's interested in is the end result, is, are you going to put that rubbish out? I've asked you to put the rubbish out, you're going to do it. Right? You have to wait 10 minutes, but the rubbish does get put out. And that's all God wants. You've done it. You've done what was asked of you. But that's not good enough in Christianity. Christianity has you going over and over everything, analysing yourself, analysing every feeling and emotion. And it gets very, 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 very excessive for an awful lot of people. And I know I've gone through phases like that, and it's not healthy. I really think it's very, very damaging. It's almost demanding too much of a human being, because the reality is everybody's imperfect. We're all flawed human beings. Nobody is a perfect human being. And really, the fact that people are wrestling and the people choose to take the right decision, I think that's, from a Jewish point of view, I think that would be a positive thing, because the very fact that you have to decide, am I going to do this? I don't want to do it, but it's the right thing. But I don't feel like doing, but it's the right thing. But I can't be bothered, but it's the right thing. You've got this going on. And in Judaism, when you succumb to doing the right thing, there is the victory. There is the victory. Right. But in Christianity, there is no victory, actually, because you've done the right thing, but you're still condemned because you didn't feel like doing it, and it took you half an hour to decide to do it. In other words, because you were wrestling, they see that in a condemning light. So the very fact that you're wrestling about doing the right thing, you are judged on it, and Christians judge themselves on it. The very fact that you're wrestling with yourself. And what we need to realise is the wrestling with yourself is actually normal. And people of religion and no religion do it anyway. Everybody does it. Because we all have our moral code, or what we think is right or what we think is wrong, or I should be doing this, if I do this it's going to cause this problem, if I do that it's going to cause that problem, but maybe I shouldn't do it. And then you're thinking, no, but I should, you're wrestling, and everybody does this. This is normal, and this is a way of sorting out, and it's like a refining process. And it's almost like to bring out the best of you, isn't it? Because you've got all these choices, which you could choose, but then you choose perhaps to do the harder choice. And it's your decision. You've made that decision. You've had the easier option, but you say, no, I'm going to do the harder option because it's the right thing to do. And isn't that what's called a mensch? Isn't that like it's like, that to me is like a pat on the back, isn't it? When somebody has the option of doing the easy option, they could do it, they get away with it. but they choose not to, and they choose the harder option because they know it's the right thing they should be doing. And this is how it is for all human beings. And I think this wrestling is normal, and I think it's good, and I think it's part of the process in decision making and in morals and ethics, and all sorts of people are trying to work things out. And we have to do this. We have to wrestle. And with commandments like the 10 Commandments of do not steal, do not murder, do not commit adultery. A lot of people will be wrestling with those commandments because of different things that have happened in their life, and they are having to struggle to kind of make it their own, in a sense, work out why they're going to go along with obeying God or why they're not. It's very, very, very difficult. But I actually don't think Jesus helps. I think he is actually making things worse for people. And I can speak from what I've seen. Because all you get is basically fucked up Christians. Guilty Christians feeling guilty and bad the whole time. Over every thought, over every feeling, over every emotion. It's terrible. It's terrible. And how can human beings expected to be whole and healthy when they're feeling so terrible about themselves? And this is what Christianity does. It makes people feel bad about themselves. I am such a wretched, horrible human being. I don't think I am. I think I'm a very nice human being. I like me. I think I'm a very nice human being. I have flaws. I'm not wretched. I'm very nice. I'm no worse than anybody else. I'm probably no better. I'm a nice human being. I like me. But Christianity doesn't want you to say that. It wants you to tell God how despicable and vile and disgusting you are. Well, I'm not. And what would God say to that? He might say, who are you calling foul and disgusting? I made you. You are not foul and disgusting. I have blessed you with certain qualities, intrinsic qualities, which I can see you are practicing. And there's always room for going more and more and more. You can be kind and you can learn to be more kind, but everybody has good attributes, and we all have, weaknesses, and we all have things about ourselves that we don't quite like or annoy us. But we also have to remember we all have, nice things about us. And I think what Christianity did to me is it just made me feel terrible about myself, and the people made me feel bad about myself. And it's really, really damaged me. It's really damaged me, and it's cultural. This is cultural. This is cultural, it's religious, and it's cultural. And, I can't point the finger, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. It's cultural. It's a way of looking at things, a way of reading scripture, just a whole approach to life. It is so severe, it is so judgmental. It's so deeply, 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 minutely, with a very fine microscope, into everything of you. It's like intense magnification of everything. And, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It is stupid. I mean, I pluck my eyebrows, right? Now, on a mirror, there's usually two sides. There's what's called the normal side, where you just look like you do now, how I look now. And then you've got the other side. That's the magnifying side. Now, that is the side that I use to pluck my eyebrows, right? Because it is easier. You can see everything, and it's easier to home in on the hair and pull it. But when you flick over the mirror to the ordinary side, it looks fine. The eyebrows look fine. But when you flick back to the magnification, you can see all the tiny hairs, right? And what Christianity does is it's basically, it gets you in a mindset of magnification the whole time. So you're constantly looking at yourself through a 40 times magnification glass at everything about yourself, all your emotions, your feelings, everything. And then it's over magnification, and now everything's over magnified, and I don't think that can be good. How can that be healthy? How can it be healthy? Because it's over magnified. It's over magnified. And if it's over magnified, then it's an exaggeration. So if it's an exaggeration, is it really, can you really call it the truth? Can you call it the truth? You see, if I look at my eyebrows in a normal mirror, right, you think, oh, they look fine, fine, fine. But then I get the magnifying glass, see teeny little hairs, teeny little hairs. Ooh, 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 panic, 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 ooh, ooh, you know, you pluck, 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 pluck. But when you turn it back, you know, it it's the magnification, the over magnification, that is causing me to see hairs that probably aren't visible to the naked eye. I mean, anybody who's talking to me will not see all those hairs, right? It's only when it's over magnified that you see all those hairs, and that's when you start plucking, and you can get a bit obsessional, and so you're constantly getting the over magnifying side of the mirror, and you think everybody's going to see all these hairs. They can't see them because this is a magnification mirror. Or, you know, standard, so nobody's going to no. If I said there's a hair there, they'd say, what hair? I can't see it. They wouldn't see it. So this is all about truth, and about, well, the Christian would probably argue, well, God can see it. But then we have to ask, is God looking at us with a magnifying glass or not? That's another question. Do we know how God is looking at us? Is he looking at us through a magnification by 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 or 100? Because if you're looking for flaws, you could find flaws in anything and everything. But then you have to ask the question, what is a flaw? If you look at nature, you look at vegetables, like organic vegetables, when they grow all sorts of funny shapes and things. And the supermarkets don't want to sell them because they're all such funny shapes, the carrots and things, the turnips. But there's nothing wrong with them. They're absolutely delicious, they're organic. But the supermarkets won't sell them because the public don't like the look of them. They think, oh, don't like the look of that carrot. There's nothing wrong with it. It absolutely tastes delicious. But because of the way it looks, they think there's something wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's supposed to look like that. It's not actually supposed to look like supermarket carrots, bright orange, with a totally, you know, scrubbed clean. You know, carrots in the garden, when you pick up a carrot from the garden, it's not like that. It's all covered with soil, and it's murky looking. It's browny orange murky. It's not the least bit pleasing to the eye. Nothing pleasing to the eye. But you bite into it, and it tastes absolutely delicious. But that's what it's supposed to. It's supposed to taste delicious, and that's what it's about. It might not look much, but it tastes absolutely delicious. And it's the same with organic lemons. I got an organic lemon. I mean, it doesn't look much to look at. You know, it's you know, nobody wants to buy it because it doesn't look much to look at from the outside, but it's the inside is perfect. So how is God looking at us? And is he looking at us with a magnifying glass? Well, we don't know, because you know, are we assuming he's looking at us with a magnifying glass? Well, according to Jesus, yes, because Jesus is looking with a magnifying glass, isn't he? He's saying, oh, I know you really wanted to go to bed with her. You didn't go to bed with her, but you wanted to. Condemnation. You're a sinner. You're a sinner. You're a sinner. You need to ask God's forgiveness because you wanted to go to bed with her. Well, do you need to ask God's forgiveness for wanting to go to bed with her? Because you actually haven't broken the commandment. You haven't actually committed adultery. You haven't broken that commandment. You haven't broken the commandment. So you could say to Jesus, actually, Jesus, you're wrong. I haven't been to bed with that woman. I am not guilty of adultery. So don't you start picking on me. I had a choice. I wanted to. I had the opportunity. I could have got away with it. My wife wouldn't have found out, but I chose not to. And why aren't you giving me credit for not doing it? Instead, you condemn me because I wanted to do it. How mean is that? How mean is that? How mean is that? I mean, you can't win. You can't win with Jesus, can you? You can't win. You know you're going to be condemned whatever you do, because you're doing the right thing and then you're condemned because you didn't feel like doing it in the first place, you know. And you've got this over-analysing. And whereas Judaism, in comparison, is so practical. Judaism is known as being a very practical religion. It's very down to earth. It's very much common sense. It is about what you do. It's you don't feel like doing it, but you do it. Who wants to fast on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement? Most Jewish people don't want to. Who wants to fast? You wake up hungry. You don't want to fast, you know. But you do it because God has commanded you to don't fast. You know, to fast. Does Jesus honestly think that God is sitting there in the synagogue, looking at you all in shul, saying, "I condemn you because you're all thinking about food and what you're going to have when the fast ends"? I mean, how mean is Jesus, really? Because this is what he's like. This is what he's like. You're going to shul, you're fasting for, you know, you're asking forgiveness of your sins and everything. You're really, really, really hungry. You're so hungry, and you're thinking about chopped liver in between and chopped up. I wonder what will happen. In between dabbling, in between praying, you're thinking about food and everything. But you're sticking with it and you're still fasting and you're fasted. But according to Christianity, God, like Jesus, would be condemning you because you were thinking about what you're going to have to eat when the fast was ended. So Jesus is condemning you just for your human frailty, just for your human frailty of feeling hungry. I mean, the whole point of the fast is you're supposed to be hungry. You're supposed to be hungry. When you fast, you are hungry. It is like a little sacrifice. Because you want to eat and you are hungry. You're giving up something. You're giving up food for a day. And God knows you're hungry. He knows you're sitting in shul in the synagogue and you're hungry. And your tummy's rumbling and it's always hot day. It's always hot on Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement in the United Kingdom. You guarantee every day in September and October could be pouring with rain, freezing cold, and come Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, you know it's going to be, the sun is shining. God makes sure that wherever the Jews are in the world, he's going to make that sun shine on that synagogue, and it's going to be boiling hot, and everybody's come out of shul because they need a break. They're so hot, and everybody's there and they're hungry and tummy's rumbling, and it's so cramped and it's so hot bodies, and people go out in the fresh air and it's not fresh air because it's so hot outside. The sun's bursting down, you're trying to find some shade and you're hungry. Oh, and you're thirsty. It's terrible. But you stick with it and you complete it. And instead of Jesus patting them on the back and saying, "Good on you, you did it," he's condemning them for sitting in the shul feeling like, "Oh, I could just do with a nice bowl of cornflakes. I'd love a piece of toast." You know, it's very cruel, Christianity. It's very cruel. It's very exacting. And, you know, St. Paul, what a demanding so-and-so he is. What, you know, it's terrible. It's so demanding. And it doesn't allow for human frailty. It doesn't allow for anything. It's hard enough that you're sitting there fasting and then you're condemned because you're thinking about sausages and things. You know, it's such a cruel religion, and I feel it's damaged me, and I feel I'm angry that my attitudes towards myself, my attitudes towards other people has been all wrong. It's so judgmental, it's so severe, it's so superior, it's so expecting far too much of human beings. Far too much of human beings. And they're doing the best, they're trying the best, they're obeying God's commandments, different commandments, they're trying the best, and they still get criticised because they wrestled with themselves. Perhaps they were tempted to steal, but they decided not to. Or they were tempted to do something that was wrong, or they felt like losing the temper, but they managed to control themselves. They managed to control themselves. They were ready to let rip and say the most terrible, awful things, but they exercised self-control. And instead of getting on a pat on the back from Jesus, no, what he's going to say. He's going to say, but you felt like murdering the people, didn't you? You felt like calling him a so-and-so. And you know, I mean, he also judges like if you call somebody a fool. You know, again. But there's degrees of things that you can say to people. And we all know this in our language. And what Jesus is saying here is if you call somebody a fool, you've done the worst of the worst of the worst commandment. You've done the worst of the worst if you call somebody a fool. Well, not strictly speaking according to the Hebrew Bible and the Psalms. Because a person who, I think it's said of people who don't trust in God are, you know, an idiots, fools. You know, if you don't call to God for help when you need help, you're an idiot. You know, which I would agree with. If you have toothache, right, and you don't make an appointment to see a dentist and you have a dentist, then you're an idiot. You're a fool. If you don't actually make that appointment, then you're an idiot. You're a fool. Obviously, there's layers of name calling, but I think we all get the spirit of name calling, and we would all say to somebody, if somebody's kvetching and going on and on and on about the toothache, and say, well, have you made an appointment to see the dentist? And say, no. And they say, have you got a dentist? Yes. Why haven't you rung the dentist? Oh, I don't know. It's hurting, it's hurt. But you get annoyed. You say, well, don't be so stupid. Make an appointment. Don't be so stupid. Don't be a fool. Don't be an idiot. Make the appointment. You've got a dentist. Make the appointment. You've been sitting there for 3 days kvetching and moaning about your toothache. Go and make an appointment. That person is a fool. That person is an idiot. You're also an idiot if you don't ask God to help when you know there's a God out there who could help you, and you need help and you can't get help anywhere. You've got nothing to lose by asking God to help you, you know. You've got a whole range of problems and they can't all be sorted and everything's getting out of control and blah, 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 blah. You know God exists, so just ask him to help you. And God would say to you, if you don't ask him to help you, God would say, you're an idiot, you're a fool, I'm here. Why aren't you asking me to help you? Why aren't you asking me to help you? You're sitting there worrying. It's a very complex situation you've got here going on. You've tried everything. You're getting nowhere and you're still not asking me to help you. Ask me to help you and you know, at least I'll influence your mind and give you 1 or 2 ideas, but you're sitting there worrying. So you are an idiot. But Jesus doesn't even like that. He doesn't say, oh, you mustn't call anybody a fool. And this is contrary again to the Hebrew scriptures. You are an idiot. And sometimes people need to be told you are a fool. And you're getting this in the Proverbs, you're getting this in the Psalms. It makes it very clear who the fool is. And it's quite, when you read the Psalms and the Proverbs, it's quite obvious from reading different things that you were quite in agreement. That person is a fool. That person is a fool. Don't confide in a gossip. Only a fool would confide in a gossip. If you confided something really personal, really personal, to a gossip, people would say you're an idiot. But you're a fool. What are you doing confiding to a gossip? You know. But what does Jesus do? He condemns you for calling that person a fool. And I think the problem is with Christianity is you even with these anecdotes that I've given you, the words of Jesus, the things he's saying, what Christians do is they take these sayings and they reapply them to every area of their life, and they use the same degree of severity. So they're judging themselves and they're judging other people, and they're severe and they're over analytical and they're over critical, and they're expecting so much from themselves and so much from other people. And what I've realised is, don't expect so much from other people. And I've realised, really don't expect anything from other people. It is, we've got to lower our standards of what we expect of other people, and perhaps be a bit more realistic about what we're expecting of ourselves, and not to be looking at ourselves through over magnification glass. And I think this over magnification is the problem within Christianity, and is what causes it to be such a damaging religion, because it magnifies everything, because the action is not good enough for Christianity. It's all to do with the mind and the feelings, and if the feelings and the mind are opposed to the action, then you're condemned. That's what Christianity is. So you feel like committing adultery, you're deeply, madly, truly in love with this woman, you love her so much, you adore her so much, all your emotions involved, you want to sleep with her, you love her to bits, but you're married and you say, no, I'm not going to do it. And you walk away, you end it. But Christianity would condemn you for all those feelings, for all those emotions, for all those desires. And this is what's so awful about it. Because I think the Jewish route and the Jewish approach is far healthier, because it's about the action. It's about just don't do it. Don't do it. Decide you're not going to do it. You are going to be thinking about this person. You still love this person, you still have strong emotions for this person, you still have the feelings, but what counts is the action. Make your mind up, you're not going to commit adultery, sever the relationship, and all the emotions and feelings will have to work themselves out over a period of time. Settle down, right? But the most important thing is you've taken the right action. And I wish I'm so full of regret that I spent 42 years within this horrible, harmful, damaging religion of Christianity. That horrible New Testament that has so much damaging teachings in it. Okay, there's a few nice things, bits and pieces, but then it's the same with every religion, but there's a lot of it is very, very damaging, and the way it's applied, and it's the culture and everything. It just causes so much harm, heartache. It leads to people feeling very unhappy. They're not happy. I think most Christians are very unhappy. I often thought that during my 42 years. I feel that people deep down are quite unhappy. It often used to strike me that way, that people are unhappy. And it's something that can never be talked about. It's never talked about. But I'm talking about it. And everything's denied. Nothing's ever talked about. All the things that I've raised today with you today, I've never heard. You will never hear this in any church. You will never hear this on a one-to-one basis with Christians. But people just don't go there. Everybody's concerned about the image, everybody's concerned about the reputation, everybody's concerned to appear holy, everybody's concerned about very much about the Christian image. They don't want anybody to know what they're really thinking and feeling. Nobody wants to be judged. It's very gossipy. You know, people do gossip. Christians do overshare. They're constantly telling each other everybody's business because the excuse they use is prayer. They love telling each other everybody's business. And I think there's a lack of insight. There's an unwillingness to face themselves. And because then there's going to be very hard questions. And I think I'm getting all these hard things now because I've moved away from it. And I mean, when I stopped going to church, I stopped going to church for 20 years, but I still held my belief. But as I stopped going to church, there was a deprogramming going on in that 20 years. I got a lot of insight into the damage of Christianity, but I still believed in Jesus. But now that I don't believe in Jesus, I'm getting more insight because I'm more critical of him. I am more critical of him. I mean, I can stand back now and be objective. I can look at things he's saying and I'm saying, no, that is totally out of order. You're wrong. This is damaging. This is harmful. I've seen the effect it has on people. I've seen the effect it has on people. This condemning approach, this condemning feelings, condemning emotions, condemning all of that. It's terrible. It's terrible. Because at the end of the day, in Torah, the Jewish law is all about what you do. It's not about you. It's not about feelings. And do I feel like going to shul? Do I feel like fasting? Do I feel like lighting the... I don't feel like lighting the candles tonight. I'm tired. I've got to get up off the seat and light the Friday night candles. It's not about your feelings. It's about just get up and do it. Do it, light the candles. Light the candles and sit down, you know. I've got to get up and light the candle. Well, yeah, it's not condemning you for being tired and not wanting to get up. Because you've got to get up and light the candles and you're comfortable in your seat. You don't feel like getting up. But you've got to get up. You have to light the candles. It's Friday night. You know, it's not condemning you. It's just what it's about is just do it. You know, you know, your baby boy's got to be circumcised. So just circumcise him. Yeah, it's just oh, they've got everybody coming and there's this and that and the other and oh, we've got this to do, we've got that to do. I mean, you know, because you know you might not be feeling well and you've just had a new baby and now you've got this and I don't feel like it and everybody's going to turn up and it's I'm not. But you have to circumcise the baby. God is not judging you because you don't feel like doing things on the day preparing for the circumcision. You know, I've got to get everything ready and everybody's coming to the house and this and so-and-so's coming and so-and-so's coming and I don't feel like it. And I wish I could just stay in bed. I'd be tired. You know, you've just had a new baby and you've got to be all smiles and everybody's turning up and you used to go to the shore. Do you see what I mean? God is not condemning you because you're having all these feelings. All that matters to him is the baby gets circumcised. You're sitting there feeling tired, worn out. You've just had a baby. You feel totally... Obviously, you're happy you've had a baby. You know, you're happy, but you're tired. You're feeling on edge and you're tired and you want everybody to go. No sooner than they arrive, you want them all to go because you're tired. You just had a new baby and you're tired and you haven't been sleeping because the baby's been crying for the last 7 nights. Do you see what I mean? But you circumcised the baby, but God is not annoyed with you like Jesus would be. Oh, you're not very hospitable, are you, sitting there with a long face? Because Christians would condemn you. You're sitting there with a long face. You should be smiling and glowing and radiant. Right? Christians would condemn you, the new mother, on the 8th day sitting there, feeling exhausted from sleepless nights with the new baby screaming, feeling unwell, right? Feeling headachy, feeling ugh. She's sitting there feeling well, and everybody there coming up smiling, like, oh, I feel terrible. All I want to do is lie down and go to bed. The Christian would condemn you. They would condemn you. Oh, you should be smiling, you should be glowing, you should be radiant. God has given you a baby son. It's always condemnation with with Christianity. You can bet your bottom dollar there's judging and there's judging. That's all Christianity has to offer is judging, condemnation. You are not a perfect human being. You foul, despicable woman sitting there looking ungrateful, scowling because you've got a headache, scowling because you're exhausted and tired from having a new baby. They condemn you. You judge you awful, wicked, horrible, sinful new mother. There's no good in you. God is looking at you. He's disgusted. You foul, despicable creature. You cannot get to heaven because you need the blood of Jesus. And you are sitting there with a new baby, and you're sitting there with a long face. You're sitting there with a headache, clutching your head. You self-pitying, wicked woman. What sort of woman are you? Do you think God wants to look at you when he sees the evil in your heart? When he sees how ungrateful you are for this new baby, because all you can do is think about is going to bed to sleep because you're so tired because the baby's kept you up all night, every night for 7 nights, you know. But this is Christianity. It makes you feel shit about yourself. It will not make you feel good about yourself. I'm telling you that. If it makes you feel good about yourself, the way it can do it is to make you egotistical. And the church is full of egotistical, smug Christians. Smug, self-satisfied Christians who think they're God's gift to the world. They think they're better than you. They think they're superior than you. They think they're above everybody else. Oh, yes, they do. They always deny it, but they do. They're very smug. They're very self-satisfied. They think they are the light of the world. They are the light of the world. They're not little 10-watt bulbs, 5-watt bulbs. They are the light of the world. They're it. They're glowing Jesus. They're glowing and radiant. And everybody who looks at them sees God. And they think they're all wonderful. They're all very full of themselves. If you want to become humble, don't become a Christian. It won't make you humble if you join the church. It will make you arrogant, judgmental, severe with yourself, severe with other people. It will make you superior. It will make you smug. And it all comes from the New Testament. It comes from the New Testament and the way the church reads the Hebrew Scriptures. They pervert everything. They pervert everything. It's terrible what they can do. And they do it with the Hebrew Scriptures. They pervert everything. And they ignore the chosen people, the people of God, the rabbis. They have utter contempt for. They're not willing to learn from the rabbis. You see, we are the people of the book. But would they give us any credit for that? No. No, they know better. They know better. And so I hope this has been insightful for you and interesting and thought-provoking. And I thank you for taking so much time to listen to me.